we're going to give it up to the co-founder, not the founder. You're the co-founder of Leading with Power. And Keith has had an opportunity to share with us in the past about different journeys and things that he's done in life. I've had an opportunity to know Keith for a long time. Matter of fact, I found probably the first picture I took of Keith. He had gym shorts on, little gym shorts, and white knee-high white socks.
Styling.
Jogging shoes.
Styling.
Yep. Keith Tompkins.
Thank you, Rich. It's great to see you guys at the first ever Chippewa Valley peaceful protest against mediocre living. We're excited that you're here. This is going to move fast. It's not going to be your typical Leading with Power session. There's going to be an opportunity for feedback, conversation around the table, but you got to stay with me, and when I ask you to do something, you just got to respond, okay? So the first thing you do, everybody has one of these on their table. Please take it out. I'm going to read it. Follow along. I bargained with life for a penny, and life would pay no more. However, I begged at evening when I counted my scanty store. For life is just an employer. He gives you what you ask, but once you have set the wages, why, you must bear the task. I worked for a menial's hire, only to learn dismayed that any wage I had asked of life, life would have gladly paid. I first encountered this poem when I was about 25 years old, just started off in the Amway business, so I'm here today to show you the circles. Not really, relax, relax. Saw some frightened faces out there. And it was timely for me, because it was at a time in my life when it expanded my vision, it expanded my dreams and ambitions, to live a life that went beyond my upbringing, my background, my history, my abilities, and it came at a perfect time. But I stand before you today not as someone that has arrived, but I am back in this same spot right now where I'm asking God for what's next, what mountain to climb. I want to be Rocky 3, not Rocky 2. Most of you guys will get that, right? In Rocky 2, he wins, gives up his passion for glory. I'm not going to sing the song. Rocky 3 is when he rediscovers his ambition and his guts, and he develops the eye of the tiger. And some of you may be in that mode too, where you've been comfortable just long enough and you might be looking for a new adventure, and I hope that's the case. A quick word to those of you who have never been to Leading with Power before. I want to try to sum up in one or two sentences what we are. As Leading with Power exists to inspire, encourage, and to equip men and launch them into their God-given dreams and destiny. And I use that term God-given quite intentionally. Although we're not a religious organization, we're not affiliated with any particular church, we do have a strong belief that God created you, loves you enough to send his son to live a sinless life and die an excruciating death to pay the price for your sin and mine on the cross. And by trusting in him, he empowers us to live a great adventure that he calls us his masterpiece, and he has preordained. We don't have to make it up. We just have to ask for his direction to discover it. So my goal for you today, and I think you wouldn't be here unless you wanted this, is that you would live before you die. That you would live until you die. And that you won't go to your death with your best music still in you. So among those resources that I'm talking about, our books, our tapes, our people, are all resources that are devoted to help men accomplish that. And I want to introduce you. I've been locked down a long time. I've got a lot to say. But I want to introduce you to someone that has influenced my life over the last several months, and his name is Bob Goff. And his book, Dream Big, is one of the themes, and where I'm getting most of the information I'm going to share with you today. He's got a video series, and I thought, I can't tell his story better than he can. So I ask that you give your full attention to a very short video that we're going to play of Bob Goff introducing what I will come back and say. But I want to tell you, what I say today is not going to make this day rise or fall. It's going to be what you write down on the back of that poster that I gave you, and I'll give you instructions later, but it'll only be a success and useful to you if you actually take time to do the work. So without further ado, please give your full attention to this video.
Hey everybody, welcome to session 1 of Dream Big. I am so glad that you're along for this journey. We're gonna have some fun, but what we're gonna do is have you think a little bit. I write books, and some of you have read a couple of them. My books oftentimes make you smile, they'll make you cry, but this series, I wanna make you think. And so what it involves is taking the things that you've been dreaming about for the longest time and giving them flight. Hence, all the paper airplanes, right? What we want to do is to chunk up this curriculum into a couple sections so that you can gather together. And what I want you to do when you're together is to go a little bit deeper, and I'll tell you what I mean by that. It's easy to have the conversations about, like, what's your name, what do you do, what's your dog's name, but ask the third or fourth question. When you get to a series or something that we're talking about, ask a little bit deeper questions as you gather together as a group. Get to know each other. Get a little bit deeper than you've gone before. Jesus, he had these miracles that he did. There's actually 37 of them. I counted. And it's the 5th miracle. He's walking down the Sea of Galilee, and he sees this empty boat. So he gets in it, the first boat jacking. He goes out and he meets these guys, and they've been fishing all night, and he says this: push out a little deeper. And you know what? They thought it was a stupid idea, but they did it anyway. What I want you to do is go a little bit deeper. As we go through some of the curriculum that's in Dream Big, I want you to push out a little bit deeper, because that's where you're gonna access your ambitions. They don't lie right there on the surface. They're a little bit deeper. So find those and draw them out from each other. I teach a class at Pepperdine Law School. Can you imagine me teaching a class at a top-tier law school? I'm like, everybody passes the bar. You get a car, you get a car, you get a car. But it isn't your normal class. It's a class on failure. Every week, I have one of my friends come who's screwed up in front of Earth, which is actually all of my friends. I don't want to talk about the big wins. I want to get real. And that's where some of your ambitions lie. You're only going to be able to access some of these ambitions that you've had if you get real with yourself, get real with God, and get real with each other. There's something beautiful about that. It takes some vulnerability. It takes some authenticity. But that's where the good stuff is. What we're going to try to do over all these different series, we're trying to carve a new little groove in your brain. And then here's the deal. We want to go Grand Canyon with it. You guys have heard about the place. It started out like a brook. It was just a little trickle of water. I wasn't there. I'm old, but not that old. It turned into a stream. It turned into a mighty river. It turned into the Grand Canyon. And what happened is that the water kept going, digging deeper and deeper and deeper. What I want you to do is take this little groove that you're carving in your brain. I want you to go Grand Canyon. I want you to use that thing so much. Find opportunities to repeat and repeat and repeat. Go deeper and deeper. That's what I want you to do. Go Grand Canyon. So what I want to do is stretch myself. It'd be easy if I just taught a class at Pepperdine Law School, but I teach another one. It's at San Quentin Penitentiary. I'm not kidding. I've got all of these terrific felons in my class, and we talk about the same stuff. Here's the deal. Their mistakes are a little bit more obvious. Some of these guys have life. They are never getting out. But some of them have a second shot. What I want them to do is to have clarity. And that's what I want for you too. There's a great verse in Colossians 4, and it says this. Paul says, "My hope is this, that I could present the mystery of the gospel of Christ and to do it with clarity." What I want my friends, I want you, I want myself, Sweet Maria, all the people I work with, my friends who are in San Quentin, to present their message with clarity. And the way we get clarity is authenticity. Is to just get real about what's going on in your life. What I'll do with my friends at San Quentin is this. I'll have them make paper airplanes. If you've got some paper around, you got to do this. I'll have them folded and make all the creases. And what we end up doing is we have all of these creases and intricate folds. And then I'll have these guys stand up and one at a time start throwing these things to see how far they'll go. And the crazy thing is the ones that look super elaborate don't go very far. They look awesome, but they don't go far. I want you to abandon what your faith looks like, abandon what your life looks like, and I want you to go far in your faith. I want you to go far in your life. You know, the crazy thing is this: if you want your airplane to go the farthest, check this out. This is what you do. You crumple it up. That thing will go a mile. And what God does sometimes in our lives is we'll have these setbacks. We'll have a couple things where we see all these creases. And I think what Jesus Christ sees is possibilities. He sees there's a person that is actually going to get real with their faith, real with the community of people around them. They're ready to carve this new groove and go Grand Canyon on it. That's what I wanted you to do. I fly airplanes. I've always liked them ever since I was a kid. But the one thing I don't like doing is talking to the air traffic controllers. Because I don't know if you've listened to them on the radio, but they talk so fast. They're like, I have no idea what they're saying, so I don't say anything. And then they send the F-16s up. So what somebody told me to do one time is this. They slowed it down a little bit. They said, Bob, just say these three things. Who are you? Where are you? And what do you want? Simple enough, right? What if we did this? In this section, what I want you to do is talk about who are you. I don't mean what your driver's license says. I don't care what your passport says. I don't care what your degree, where it's from and what it says. I mean, who are you? And you know who you are? You're a child of God. I know you're a screw up. Me too. I know you're insecure. Me too. But what God says is you're his child. There's a verse in the Song of Songs, the 2nd chapter. That book is full of terrific stuff, but that's not the stuff we're going to talk about. This is a 2nd chapter of Song of Songs, and it says this: my beloved is mine and I am his. If you guys could just live into that, to just realize that you are God's, he is yours. And there's a ton of theology behind this, but when God looks at you and your mess ups, you know what he sees? He sees the Son. The second question is this: where are you? It was actually the first conversation that God had with Adam and Eve after it got really wonky in the Garden of Eden. You remember how that went. They are naked and behind a fig leaf. God wasn't confused about where he was. He wasn't talking about latitude and longitude. I think he was saying, where are we now that it got all messed up? And I think that's what he wants to know of you. I know he wants to know that of me. And where we are can be really complex. It takes a little bit of self-reflection to say, where am I? You could be on the line at DMV. That's kind of where you are, but actually you're frustrated. That's really where you're at. You could be nervous because you've got taxes that are due or a job that is sucking the life out of you. That is where you are. You could have a relationship. You could have made vows to somebody and it just is not turning out the way you thought it would. That is where you are. If we could take this time within a community of people to get real about where we're at, man, that's where all the good stuff happens. That's how you access your ambitions. Boy, I'm telling you, if you want to carve that new groove, if you want to go Grand Canyon on it, you need to be self-aware enough to ask, where am I? I'm a really insecure guy. Isn't that crazy? I'm like the balloon guy, paper airplanes, whatever. I've learned from a really young age that I could cover up a whole bunch of insecurity by just being very animated and all that. I'm not being fake. I'm just getting real. I've done the heavy lifting that comes to say, hey, what is going on right now? And I can be situationally aware to say, this is just me being insecure right now, and I can just settle down. I'm a child of God. That's who I am. I am in his presence. That's where I am. Or I'm in my shame, or I'm in the wonkiness of my situation. If you can get real about where you are, then you can answer this final question. What do you want? It was a question that Jesus asked every single blind guy he met. Isn't that crazy? Can you imagine the blind guy standing at the gates going I'm blind, I'm blind, I'm blind. And Jesus says, what do you want? Duh. I don't think Jesus was confused. Again, I think he wants to know from that guy what he wants to know from you, what he wants to know from me. What do you want? And if you want a Porsche, just get it out there. Say, I want a Porsche. You're not getting one, but get it out there anyway. We don't need a bunch of pageant kind of responses. I want world peace. If that's not what you want, God's not dazzled by these big statements. What he's dazzled by is humble, authentic hearts. Make yours one of them. And the way to get there is to just get real about what you want. And it's going to take a little bit of pinging of that. And by pinging, I mean this. What we've done is we've lived our whole lives surrounded by people who weren't trying to mess with our heads, but they were telling us what we want. It was a parent, it was an old boyfriend or girlfriend, it was a pastor, it was a friend, it was somebody, they told you what you want, and down deep you go like, I actually don't want that. Boy, I'm telling you, could you just clear the decks, spread it all out and say, what do I want? And if faith isn't even a big deal for you, don't put in a Sunday school answer to say like, well, Jesus, if that's not what you want, get real with that. But I'm telling you, if you're on this road towards faith and you actually want more faith in your life, just get that out there. Jesus never had a problem with people who were confused. What bugged him was the people who were faking it. People were saying, I want this, but they really want something different. If this group that you're within right now can just get real about who you are, where you are, and what you want, you'll be way ahead on the track to figuring out your ambitions, how to get after it, and dreaming big dreams. When I grew up, my parents, when I forgot to say thank you, they would jump in and say, you're welcome. Did that happen to you? You know it did. I would jump into my dinner and I'd like dive in because I was so hungry and it's mac and cheese. And then I'd forget to say thank you to my mom. And so with a furrowed brow, she would say, you're welcome. Well, I ended up learning the importance of politeness and to say thank you when somebody says you're welcome as a word of correction. Well, I go to Uganda. This is many, many years later, and I've studied up on all of the politeness and all the etiquette around the country because it's a very British kind of colony for 50 years. And I get off the plane just knowing I'm just going to do everything right. I'm there 5 minutes, and a Ugandan says, you're welcome. I'm like, rats! I'm like, thank you, but I didn't know what I did. 10 minutes later, another Ugandan says, you're welcome. I'm like, dang it. The third time a Ugandan said, you're welcome, I slowed it down a little bit, and I realized they're saying, you are welcome here. These aren't words of correction, they're words of invitation. And I think what I want us to know is that we're invited. This thing that Jesus did is he said, you are welcome. Bring your ambitions, bring your dreams, bring the real you, not the fake you. Leave that one on the bus. But to bring this, because you're welcome to just bring who you are. I'm a healer that heals people that realize that they actually need one. Well, we got to this first village. I wanted to play with some of the Ugandan kids and kick a soccer ball around a little bit. And when we had them all exhausted, and me too, we jumped in the Jeep and we're starting to leave. And as we're pulling away, I'm like waving to the kids like goodbye. And there's like 10 kids running after the Jeep. And now there's like 20 kids. And so I get both hands going. There's like 30 kids running after the Jeep, and I asked the driver, like, what's the deal? And here in America, this means hi. In Uganda, it means follow me. Isn't that awesome? And I realized that's what I've been doing with Jesus. He keeps saying, like, Bob, follow me. And I'm like, hi. That's what's been happening with your ambitions. You're waving at him. I think you ought to follow him. What are your ambitions? What are the things that you really want to do? Who are you? Where are you? What do you want? And figure out what you want and then follow those ambitions. You'll know the right ones. If your ambition is to knock off liquor stores, you'll be in my class at San Quentin. But if your ambition is to draw a little closer to the people around you, be a little bit more available to your family, I'm telling you, stop waving at them. I was in the Midwest, and there was an event, and they had a rock and roll band playing music, and then I was supposed to speak. I actually wish I would be first, because I'm in bed by 9. I'm like that guy. And so I spoke after them. It's like 1 a.m. before I get to this motel, and I get to the front desk, and the guy's like totally distracted. He gives me the key to my room. I go up. I throw my backpack on the bed. I turn on the lights. You guys, there's a woman in the room. She starts screaming. She's like, this is my room. I thought I was going to get maced. And so I'm looking at the key. I'm like, this is my room. So I grabbed my bag and I ran out the door. I felt like Joseph. When I got to the front desk, I told the guy, like, buddy, you had one thing to get right. I mean, really, just one person per room. And I think what happens is that we end up having all these trespassers in our rooms. They've trespassed into our lives. They've come uninvited. And what we end up doing is seeing Jesus like as if he's standing at the door knocking, and then we can like look through the peephole or let him in and clear a couple inches of space in the closet for him. He's not interested. He wants the whole room. And figuring out your ambitions needs to involve giving the room to Jesus and to clearing out some people that you've actually accumulated along the way. I'm not saying don't devalue them. I'm just saying I think you might need to create a little distance between you and some of the people that are saying you're not allowed to pursue your ambitions. I would just gut check that. I would do what Paul said. I would check everything against Scripture. I want you to check everything you hear in these series against Scripture. See if it's true. And if it's not true, go Galatians 1 on it, run right out of the room. Literally, just flee. You can explain it to everybody else later. I want you to take the idea of this, like giving Jesus the whole room, instead of inviting him like he's a celebrity guest and putting him off in the corner. And I think that's what we end up doing. The room gets so crowded with all the things that we've accumulated in our lives. It's like we're hoarders. We can't even navigate our lives anymore. If you're going to figure out who you are, where you are, what you want, and what you're going to do about it, you're going to need to clear the room and give Jesus the whole thing. As we wrap up this first section, I'm thinking about the first miracle that Jesus did. You guys know what it is, right? The wedding at Cana. And everybody knows the story. You know, they ran out of wine. They said, get the water. But what I've been doing for the last 10 years is this. I'm not just memorizing the miracle that happened. I'm trying to understand what was happening around the miracle. You know what happened when they ran out of wine? Mary went to the host and she said this: do whatever Jesus tells you to do. That's what I want you to do. As we wrap up this section, I want you to think, what are the things that Jesus has told me to do? And I don't hear audible things from Jesus. I don't get that. I just read Scripture. I say, like, what has he said to do? Matthew 25. You want a list? Here it is. Hungry people, thirsty people, sick people, strange people, naked people, and people in jail. That's it. You can go to the fruits of the Spirit: love, joy, peace, forbearance, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, self-control. If we start doing those things, then we live into our ambitions while we're doing the things that Jesus told us to do. And so, don't just read about like hungry people. Go feed somebody, get some burgers, drive around. Thirsty people, naked people are a little harder to deal with, give them some socks. Whatever it is that causes you to actually move from thinking about this stuff to doing that stuff, that's the difference between carving a new groove and going Grand Canyon. What it's going to take is authenticity. So if you're in a group or you're going to get together with a group, get authentic, talk about who are you, where are you, what do you want, what are you going to do about it?
That's the longest of the videos. The next 3 weeks, I'm just saying we're available to be here if there is an interest in following through with this. But we're going to start today, and I'm going to start with maybe the only profound thing I will say to you today. Pens up. Come on, people, let's go. A man will never consistently live to a level higher than he sees himself. That is the essential truth of why it's so important that we answer that first question, who are you? And that's a delicate balance, but a phrase that came in my preparation for this that kept coming back to me was this phrase, and it came together. I didn't read it somewhere, but I think what we're looking for is bold humility. And if you think about the life of Jesus, he humbled himself, and though being in the very nature God, did not consider equality of God to be something to hang on to, but instead he humbled himself, came to the earth, and served and obeyed and lived in a very humble way. But he wasn't afraid of anything. And so I think what we're looking for here is bold humility. But if I ask you the question, who are you? This is the time you get to shout out at me. What factors in your mind go into your answer to that question? The brave ones will speak first. What factors, when you think about writing down, who am I, what factors?
Serving.
Serving? Yes, sir.
Courage.
Courage. Beautiful.
Loving others.
Loving, well, this is like the advanced group. No, I want to hear from some of you other guys. Yes.
Your results up till now.
Yeah, great. That's great. Thank you for that. Your history, your past history, successes and failures, right? Anybody else? Your heritage, yes.
Faithfulness?
Faithfulness? Faithfulness. As you assess who you are to this point, I want to talk too about limiting voices. We all have had limiting voices in our lives. I remember when I was going through this spiritual awakening as a young man in my early 20s, a cousin of my girlfriend at the time would tell other people, Keith is trying to become someone he's not. And I think she meant it as an insult. But that's exactly what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to become someone I'm not. And at the time I was naive and I wasn't even a believer yet, but I had had a spiritual awakening and I realized the limitations of my religious upbringing and the inherent hypocrisy in all of it, and saw it for the emptiness that it represented, and I was unsettled. I did want to become somebody that I was not. I've been playing a lot of golf lately. And by a lot of golf, I mean a lot of golf. To the point, I think I have a rib injury from repetitive motion golf. But I have a friend who's a very, very good golfer, and always has been, and I asked him, I said, how did you become such a good golfer? And he said, you know, Keith, from the time I started playing as even a young kid, I was always nice to myself. And I thought, what a novel. You know, I've heard language on the golf course that is even original for, I'm 64 years old, and I'm still hearing new things. But what a novel thought. And do you realize the number one voice that's most prevalent in you, your mind, and your heart is your own? So how about we be nice to ourselves? But we've all had launching voices, and Leading with Power, we want to be one of your launching voices. I think it's imperative that you find people that believe the best of you and expect the best from you. Believe the best of each other and expect the best from each other. And you need to surround your life with more people like that. So I'm going to give you an opportunity at this point in time. You're going to be able to spend just a minute or two, and I want you to actually write down, who are you? And before you do that, everybody has at their place one of our bookmarks. Everybody has one. I need you to grab it. This will take you a minute, I know, because I timed it. But I'll give you 90 seconds. Before you write your answer, I want you to go on the back of this bookmark that has all the listings of who God says you are, and I want you to read that from top to bottom before you begin writing. So start reading, then start writing. Ready? Go. Anybody want to have a comment about that? Anybody have anything to say about that? Any revelation come about from that? Any questions that you have about that? Yes, no? Okay, you got to start. Did you make a start? This is a process. This is not meant to be an end-all. All I'm trying to do is spark a new beginning, a new idea, a new concept, help you come to grips with a new ambition. I was asked in this process if there has been a dream that's been with you since your childhood, and I actually did think of something, and if anybody wants to know about what it was, I'll share it with them, but I won't do it now. The next question is, where are you? And obviously, physically, I can see where you are, but let me give you a couple categories to deal with. Where are you spiritually? Where are you emotionally? And where are you relationally? Now take that same bookmark and turn it over to the back. There's just a simple illustration there. And the first step on identifying where we are spiritually, this is just a nice diagram that shows the reality of when a man is born, he's born separated from God. You and I didn't have to learn how to lie, cheat, and steal. It came quite naturally to us. And that's because we are born into this world with a sin nature. We're separated from God and from all. Leading with power is not about self-help. It's not about sucking it up, pulling yourself up by the bootstraps. It's about actually tapping into the divine power that we were intended to have from the very beginning. But something has to happen for that to be possible. The second middle illustration shows all the different things a man does to try to make himself right with God. He comes up with his own morality system, thinks that following a religion's going to work, thinks that if he's better than the guy next to him, that's going to work. And as you see, that always falls short. And the only thing that taps us back into the power of God is faith in His Son Jesus. That's why Jesus had to die. He didn't have to just come here and teach us. He had to die for us. And faith in that and in Him is the only thing that taps us back into that power. And I want you to identify on this card, put an X on there where you are at. Where are you in relation to this diagram? Put an X. Are you on one side, the other side, in the middle, wherever it is you are? And then I want to ask you this question. Are you in your 1034 moment or your 1035 moment? And I'll explain that. At 10:34 in the morning at Kitty Hawk, the Wright brothers had all the demos done, they had all the analysis done, they had all the studies done, they've read all the books, and they had all the prototypes and theories down pat. But they didn't know man could fly until 10:35. And it strikes me that I think spiritually we're in that position a lot. We have all the 1034 theories, philosophies, religious backgrounds perhaps. But you got to take the leap of faith to know that you can fly. And I'm just grateful in my life that at just the right time Jesus appeared and drew me to Himself, and I bet my life on Him. And it's been a rich and rewarding life, and that's almost 40 years ago. And that's really all I'm trying to say to you is, if you want the power of leading with power, if you want real power in your life to accomplish the things that you've been designed to accomplish, unique from God does not compare what He creates. And we spend too much time comparing our lives to everybody else's around us. And all I'm trying to do is help you to tap into what are those God-given ambitions that Ephesians 2:10 talks about. You are God's workmanship, you're God's masterpiece, created in Christ Jesus to do good works which God has prepared in advance for you uniquely to be doing. So where are you? Where are you emotionally? I just learned this yesterday. By the way, the other cities leading with power are doing virtual meetings with Stephen Mansfield in October, November, and December. They did one yesterday. They're spectacular. We'll try to get you the information so you can tap into those. He is so good. But I learned this yesterday. If you're a man with anger, and there's probably several in here. Anger is a cover for being hurt or being afraid. And to get past that anger, we have to bring it before God, but we also have to identify our woundedness. I learned something yesterday at a funeral. I learned that men have more sinus infections because they don't cry enough. I'm not a doctor, so you know. But what happened, I had a sinus congestion like the day before and all yesterday morning, and I went to this funeral and they played this beautiful song I'd never heard before of thank you, Dad, for being such a great dad. And I'm just, and all of a sudden I don't have sinus congestion anymore. That stuff's got to go somewhere. And if we're men that suppress our emotions, which is like every man in this room, we're backing up in there. And what's it going to do? You're going to get an infection. So it's time to get in touch with your heart and start feeling, right? So emotionally, where are you? Are you angry all the time? A lot of time guys are. If it comes back around. You know, I hit enough bad golf shots in a row, which is a lot. I can find out how I'm really doing spiritually and emotionally. So where are you emotionally? What about relationally? Do you know that marriage is meant to be more than just a ceasefire? God has a plan well beyond that. And it's shocking the number of times I've been asked to help counsel in marriages where the guy had no idea anything was wrong. It's not funny, but it's kind of funny, but it's true. Men think they're doing great until you ask their wives, right? So where are you relationally? Where are you in relation to God? Where are you in relation to each other? And here, then I want to ask this question. As you're answering this question of where you are you in community or in isolation? And there's a great story in the book that I highly recommend you pick up today called Dream Big about photographers have discovered that when you see sea otters on the North Pole and on glaciers and icebergs, wherever there are sea otters, not with soda, not Hallie so much, but where you see sea otters, anytime the sea otters enter the water, photographers have been able to take pictures of them, and when they're down below the water, they're holding hands. And they theorize that is because they don't want anybody to float away. And that's an essential theme of why Leading with Power exists. And I want to tell you about my Monday night guys, and many of them are here. And they're heroes to me. And Dick McGee is here. And Dick McGee is battling health and issues with his health, but he has the most gentle, loving spirit, and he's focused still on ministering to other people, and he's a hero to me. Bob Lichty is here. Bob Lichty could retire, go away and enjoy. Are you in the Coaching Hall of Fame yet?
I'm humbled.
Are you?
Not to be there.
Well, you will be there. And you could quit and sit back and rest on your laurels, but Bob's actively involved with the FCA, building into young coaches' lives. He doesn't have to be doing that. Warren Boujan, you're a hero to me. He's got health challenges like everybody else does, and he's got such an inviting spirit. He invited his next-door neighbors to church last Sunday, and they came and enjoyed things, and he invited friends to hear, and these are my heroes, but half the guys in that room are dealing with serious stuff. We've got cancer issues and divorce issues and loss of children. But every once in a while our leader will say, instead of doing the lesson, he'll ask the men, why do you come here? And invariably every man answers in this way. He says, because the men are authentic and the word comes alive. Because honestly, all we have to do is enter in whatever age we are at and admit that we don't have all the answers. And what a bright future would be in store for us. Now, if you don't have a group of men like that are seeing the best in you and expecting the best from you, I'm happy to steer you toward ours, or you could come next Thursday, and we'll form a group like that will come out of this. But please don't do this thing alone. So where are you? Take a moment and start writing down. Are you in community or isolation? Where are you at relationally, emotionally, spiritually? And I want to encourage you as you're writing that your failures and heartaches do not disqualify you from moving on from them. They are the keys to what you have to offer other people. So if you're discouraged, disheartened, you've driven your life into a ditch and don't know how to get out, you are not disqualified. I don't care how old or young you are or what you've been through, you're one decision away from making a change that will give you powerful energy and enthusiasm and outlook. And it's amazing how God sends and rallies the troops once a man decides to get out of the ditch. He surrounds them with help. And I've seen it happen over and over again, and it's happened in my life. So just take a moment and write down something under where you are in those categories. I have a commitment to get you out of here on time, and I see that somebody had to leave. I just wanted to mention it will be a personal affront to me if you can leave, but if there's one poster that's left sitting at the table where someone was sitting, I will take that as a personal affront. Those posters are meant for you to take home and for you to continue to work on this process. And if you have to leave early, be sure and sign up for next week on our pad down there so we know we can come back next week and complete this. But we'll get done on time. So the last category is, what do you want? And the premise for this is in Psalm 20, verse 4, God says this. He wants to give you the desires of your heart and make your plans succeed. Your God said that to you. He wants to make the desires of your heart come true and make your plans succeed. If I were to come around at your table and look and see what your plans are, or what you want, what would be written there? What would you show me? Reflecting on this, I realized that since an early age, I was highly motivated by trophies. When I was in 6th grade, I noticed that at the 8th grade Holy Ghost basketball tournament, the guys that made the all-tournament team got trophies, and they usually sat with cute girls. I had to get me one of those.
Trophy or girl?
Trophy. Boom. In high school, I went to the athletic banquets, and I saw that the most valuable players and good players and successful players got trophies, and they usually sat by the cutest girls. My first date with Mrs. Leading with Power was a trophy presentation. We had won the state intramural tournament of all the college teams that won their intramurals had a tournament, and we hosted it in La Crosse, and our team won it. I had met Terry the night before, invited her to the tournament. She showed up. I went and put on a little show for her. Dribbled in front of her and shot, and I played well. And they had trophies, and on Sunday they had 12 trophies. We had 9 players. So I took an extra trophy, had dinner with her, and presented her with the trophy as the most valuable fan. So I've been chasing trophies for a long time. But the trophy I'm chasing now is I like to see progress in my lifetime on the Great Commission. I get excited about the number of apples in a seed, and we're always planting seeds, and it's a glorious thing when you see some of the seeds that have been planted come into fruition. Not only apples, but orchards of apples. And I want to own a towing company. Those of you that know how mechanical and handy I am, that doesn't come into any surprise, I'm sure. But you know, at just the right time, Jesus came into my life when I had driven it in a ditch, and he towed me out, surrounded me with men and mentors in the Word of God, and rebuilt my life. And that's what I want to do now. I want to hire you all as tow truck drivers and commission you to go into this world, and as you're identifying your ambitions, make sure a primary ambition is to carry out the Great Commission. Keep an eye and look around you. There are men all over your life that have driven their lives in the ditch, and instead of judging them, extend the grace and mercy and forgiveness of God and tow them out of the ditch. That's all I have for you today. Please take this thing home with you. Continue to work on it. Thank you for your time and attention. Thank you for doing the work we've asked of you. Please avail yourself to the book. Sign up for... I'll follow through with this message for the next 3 weeks. There's more videos. You saw the longest one. The rest of them are shorter. And I was going to read Psalm 40 to you as our concluding time. I'm just going to ask you, go read Psalm 40 for yourself as you get back to your home, get back to work. And thank you for your time and attention. And as we like to say, you don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. Thanks.